Flying in Winnipeg was pretty straightforward aside from the fact that my backpack got flagged by security because of my selfie stick, but it was all good. My first impressions of Winnipeg as we Ubered to our hotel were, this feels like the north part of Toronto, because that's the area of the city I'm the most familiar with, and even when we got closer to the downtown part of it, it still felt kind of small, not in a bad way, but it pales in comparison to all the high-rise buildings that you're surrounded by in Toronto, which is what I'm used to. Our rooms weren't ready yet, so some of us checked in our luggage that we didn't need and headed over to the convention center, which was literally 2 minutes away, which is very convenient. We spent the next 2 to 3 hours setting up before finally checking in and then having our first meal at Winnipeg. We went to this beautiful Indian restaurant close by and honestly made me feel pretty underdressed, but our waitress was very kind and even picked up on the fact that we were there for the convention. We didn't know how big the portions were, so we kind of over-ordered, but that wasn't necessarily a bad thing because the food was amazing. I don't eat Indian food that often, but man, I could not put my fork down. This plate of noodles was huge. And somehow I didn't experience any flavor fatigue because of how flavorally diverse it was, if that makes sense. And I don't think I've ever seen samosas this big. I'm so used to seeing samosas just sort of like stuffed triangles, but no, these samosas were thick. We left the restaurant feeling pretty full and happy, maybe even a bit bloated, and I already missed those taco noodles already.
Good morning! Ai-kon day 2!
Wow, you know the poor air quality got to my head when I said day 2 instead of day 1. Whoops!
More like smoggy morning, because apparently there's some wildfires happening in northern Manitoba. But Ai-kon recently actually put out an announcement that the convention center might be used as an evacuation or some sort of shelter for anyone who's trying to, hunker down from all the smog. Maybe it's hard to see in this video, but it's actually, you can actually see like a layer of like smoke, kind of like mistying everything. So the air's actually pretty bad right now. It's actually 11 plus, so I think it's a good idea that I brought up mask. It's not doing much, but probably better than just not having it on at all. Thankfully, the convention center is relatively close from our hotel, so I'm literally walking up right now, so I'm not going to be out here very long, but next show you're going to see me inside of the convention center. The air in here is a lot better, so I'm glad to be inside now instead of being outside. Sorry if you can hear all those chatter next door. The customer is next door to my friend's table and they're really excited about their stuff, so don't mind the cheering in the background. I don't know what my expectations I have for Ai-kon. I'm hoping at least make expenses back, so accommodations, travel, things like that. But I think this con is going to be fun because I did organize a indie game stamp rally, which I was really excited about running. I've always wanted to organize an indie stamp rally just because there's so many indie games I enjoy. And we got a lot of cool artists who have participated in the rally, so I'm really excited to see how people think of it. Overall, I think I have realistic expectations for this con. I did bring considerably less than I did at Otakuthon. It's not another Otakuthon situation where I completely had inflated expectations for that con. I think for this con, I think I had the I made the right calls with how much I brought and what I brought. As always, the best case scenario is that you sell out earlier than, you know, overstocking and you get to bring so much stuff back. So hopefully I made the right call this time. Regardless of what ends up happening, I think this is going to be a fun con, especially since I'm going to be meeting some voice actors. So today I aim to try to meet ProZD, since he has 2 signings, one in the morning and then one like literally right after. So I'm hopefully going to be the first few people in line, just because I don't want to be away from my table right at the start. The reason why I'm leaving at the start is because people don't usually buy once doors open unless there's something that they really want to buy that they saw. I don't really think that's going to happen with me, so I'm just going to quickly get the autograph, do what I need to do, and then come back. And then tomorrow, I'm going to try to meet Damien Hawes. I'm really excited about that because not only am I a fan of his voice acting work, but I'm also a big fan of him on Smosh. I think he's really funny. I think he's a really kind and empathetic person. So I'm really excited to meet him there tomorrow. I also want to meet Alejandro Saab. He's the voice actor for Leon from the Pokemon anime. He voices Oswald from Octopath Traveler 2, but he had to cancel due to work complications. So hopefully I'll meet him somewhere else. I really want to meet you. Please come back. I want to meet you, Professor Van Stein, please. But that's okay. I just hope that everything's okay with him. That's the most important thing. I usually don't get a lot of tips, but I want to do something a little bit differently and more fun. Something I think people are going to find a little bit more fun to participate. So who will win, Chris or the Soul? My friend already contributed. She already put $2 for Chris. And a lot of people are hoping that I get a Chris sweep. So we'll see how that ends up turning out.
Here are the selfies I took with Sungwon Cho and Damien Hawes. Sungwon is just as chill as I imagined he'd be. I did end up being the first one in line, and when he walked out, he greeted us like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I said, "Great, how about you?" To which he replied, "Pretty good myself." I gave him my dumb meshy toad as originally planned, and I got to see him put on my Sans ribbon on his badge right away, so I'm glad he got a kick out of it. And Damien is just as kind as I imagined he'd be. Something that I noticed that might have seemed a little, insignificant, but was a small gesture in the grand scheme of things, but I think it speaks volumes to how considerate Damien is, was when he was signing a print for a fan in front of me, he switched the marker he was about to use to sign the print to a different one, because he didn't want the marker to smudge, bleed, and or ruin the print for the fan. And when he got to me, and I gave him my dumb meshy tote, I casually suggested that he could perhaps use it to safely carry all the gifts he gets, and he said, "You know what? I might do just that." All in all, they were very nice guys.
Good morning, day 2 of Ai-kon. Doors are going to open in about an hour. I got here a little bit early just to do my usual organization and stuff like that. So I'm just going to quickly go over some things that happened yesterday. So I completely sold out of Tenna, which is both very great but also very concerning, just because I thought 10 was going to be enough, especially for a con that I've never been to before. That's usually like how I gauge interest in anything new that I've made. But given that he's already sold out on the first day is really crazy to me. This has never happened to me before. With Siffrin, it was a little bit different. I got so much interest in people wanting my Siffrin keychain a lot, so I kind of expected there to be some demand there, so that's why I bought extra, and it paid off in the end. Whereas here, obviously, I knew people were a big fan of Tenna, but no one really reached out to me or commented that they were looking for my Tenna merch specifically. So I kind of just gauged interest by just choosing 10. That's like the base I usually go off of. And the fact that he exceeded my expectation is kind of crazy to me, which means I really got to make sure I have him stocked for Fan Expo especially, because that's gonna be the first time I'm gonna be tabling there, and I know the attendance numbers there is much greater than all the cons I've ever tabled at so far. So I gotta be really sure I have him stocked. I think in general my Deltarune, which is actually doing fairly well. So, and all of my Tenna TJs are also going to be available for my next con. It's in Toronto. It's the anime market one. So it's a smaller event, so I don't expect there to be as much of an interest. Or I don't know, maybe I'm speaking too soon. But hopefully he'll be well stocked by then. But like literally the moment we're gonna fly back, I'm probably gonna place another big order for him, so that way he's gonna be stocked for Otakuthon and Fan Expo, because I am technically cutting it close when it comes to ordering for those events, since they're literally in like the three weeks at most. So I gotta make sure I have Tenna stocked for those events as well. something that's also doing really well is my stained glass acrylic stands. I was not expecting it to do well just because it's kind of more experimental. And like, even though I did work hard on that side, I was still like, it's just sure you get a little nervous about whether something's going to do good or not. But I'm very, very proud that it's actually catching on. People are very like surprised and impressed by it. So I'm very, very grateful and happy that the design is appealing to people. And I do have this place restocks on those ones because I literally bought all the ones that I ordered as like a test. So I don't think they're gonna remain in stock for the rest of the weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if they sold out today. So that's something I have to be mindful of. Here, I'll have maybe start to like to vlog in front of my table instead, just so you guys can see. Like, yes, I am the artist of all this stuff. Oh, my prints aren't doing well at this event, in contrast to DashCon 2, which is not that surprising to me. My prints typically never do well. Well, they do well, but like not as well as my keychains and stuff. So I'm just gonna do a quick check on this guy here on my tip jar. Seems like it's people are interested in tipping, which I'm really happy about, because usually when I make tip jars, I feel like not a lot of people tip, but again, I think it's because a lot of the subjects and topics I choose for my tips is a little bit niche, so not a lot of people really know about it. But knowing Deltarune is really popular right now, I decided to take advantage of that. So right now it looks like Chris is clearly winning, which is not surprising. I had a lot of people come to me saying I think they deserve the win, given all the shit that we've been putting through them as their soul. So I think they deserve this W as like compensation. And like, honestly, they deserve a break and they deserve to win. So I'm honestly on Team Chris as well. I think we deserve to have our ass kicked, to be honest. So I don't know. Let's see. We'll see how that tip jar does for today.
Good morning, day 3 of Ai-kon. So doors haven't opened yet, so I'm a little bit early. I literally just try to walk in like I own the place. Yeah, so apparently doors don't open until 9 for exhibitors, so it's gonna be about another 20 minutes-ish until doors open. I definitely underestimated how well Deltarune was gonna do here, just because for a while I've had Deltarune stuff before chapters 3 and 4 dropped, and obviously because the development of those chapters took a few years, a lot of my older Deltarune stuff wasn't moving, understandably so. People weren't exactly thinking about it until new stuff until the new chapters decided to drop. So I honestly underestimated how well I was gonna do, because I do this thing where, like, because I'm so used to tabling at Toronto shows, I understand and have a good idea of what sells and what isn't selling in Toronto, that I completely forget that when I go to a new province and a new con in entirely different city, the demographics are going to be different, and only that, but the people there also have never seen my work before. So, and I think that popularity is only going to continue exponentially grow with chapter 5 being released in, like, I don't know, in 2026. Who knows when that's going to be? It could be the beginning of the year, the end of the year, for all we know. But yeah, I feel bad for not bringing too much, because I sold out of 10 ounce on Friday, and then I pretty much sold out of everything else Deltarune related yesterday. So the only things Deltarune related I have left are two large posters of my Undertale and Deltarune print, and then one Burley keychain and a few Noel. That's pretty much all I have. I think I still do have one of Band Susie and then two of Band Ralsei. But other than that, I pretty much don't have any more Deltarune stuff. So to the people who might be watching this who went to Ai-kon and were looking forward to getting my stuff, I'm really, really sorry. I completely underestimated how well my Deltarune stuff was gonna do, and I really am sorry for not meeting demand. But I will say I will have my Etsy open sometime in September, and hopefully I'll have everything stocked there. It's just that I have so many summer cons right now, so it won't be open until then. I will make sure to have my Deltarune stuff stocked for the other cons I'm doing. Like, my next event is next weekend. It's called Anime Market by Bantor Studio. I've already tabled there before last year. It was actually the first event they've run, I believe, and it was actually really good. I really like the organizer, and I really like how small and intimate it feels. And my sales there were about the same as Anime North on a Friday, so that's why I really like that event. And I'll have most of my Deltarune stuff stocked for that, just because I didn't bring all my Deltarune for this event. The only thing I won't have in stock is my Deltarune stained glass standees. I literally only bought 10 because I just wanted to test and experiment, and I literally brought all that stock here and it all sold out, so I unfortunately won't have those stocked for Anime Market, but I will have those stocked for Talkathon and Fan Expo.
all of this is a learning experience, so even if I'm like, oh, I should have bought more of this and that, it's like, well, it's good that I know that they're doing well, so that way I can be more mindful for the future. I just wonder how that's going to reflect on a talkathon, because if you've been tuning in since I first started vlogging, my talkathon vlog was my first vlog, and I didn't have the most stellar impressions of that con just because people were hyping it up so much, and it ended up not being as good as people made it out to be. Or that could be based on like personal experience and like what you're selling. So even though it could be good for some people, it might not be good for others. So it could just purely be I just didn't have the right stuff. So given that how popular Deltarune is right now in Winnipeg, I wonder if that's also going to be the same for Montreal. That's something I'm hoping is the case, because I don't want to end up bringing so much Deltarune stuff that it ends up not moving at all in Montreal, because that would suck a lot. But I know for sure that Deltarune is going to do well, at least in Fan Expo Toronto. That's something I'm really excited about, because it's going to be my first time tabling there, and it's going to be a much bigger event. It's going to be like on the same, I would say comparable to, I guess, Anime Expo, just in terms of like how many people are going to be going. So that's going to be an eye-opening experience of whether or not I will love the event or hate it. Regardless, I am going to do my best to make sure things are stocked for Fan Expo. I just don't really have a good idea of the numbers right now for that con, just because the attendance is usually over 100K. So I don't know if I should start bringing 50 of stuff or whatever, but I don't know, I'll figure it out. I've been asking around, but I don't have any concrete numbers yet, but hopefully I'll have that figured out before the event.
Overall, I enjoyed my time at Ai-kon. The venue was nice, the volunteers were so sweet and helpful, and I definitely want a table here again. Though, there was a lot that I took away from the experience that I'm going to be more mindful of in the future, not just in regards to inventory, as I mentioned a few times already, but regarding stamp rallies. Let me preface by saying that I am not blaming the attendees for this, but given that the attendance of this con is at least a third of some of the bigger cons I've tabled at and been in stamp rallies for, I think we bought too many prizes for this event. What's really interesting as well, I feel like stamp rallies in general aren't a big thing at Ai-kon as they are at bigger cons, and maybe it's because they haven't caught on? Like, usually there's at least 7 stamp rallies running at a time for cons that I've been to, but it felt like there was only maybe 3, including the one I hosted. Something that happens so often I'm still scratching my head over was how my friend and table partner, who was in stamp rally I hosted, would tell participants to come to me for another stamp after stamping their card, but then they would just leave? Like, I'd be sitting there with my stamp waiting for them to literally walk a few steps to the right to ask for my stamp, but they wouldn't even come. So I'm sitting there like, wait, did they leave? I can only assume that maybe they had other plans, like, I'll come back again later. But I just don't see how that's convenient because I'm literally right there. It takes less than a minute for me to stamp your card. And I haven't even mentioned the changes I had to make with the stamp cards because one of our artists got moved not once, but twice. So perhaps that impacted the way our rally was run. Not gonna lie, I feel kind of bitter by how many prizes went unclaimed, and I was kind of beating myself up about it. But ultimately, I just think there were so many factors out of my control that impacted how our stamp rally was run, but that shouldn't take away from the enjoyment and work I put into hosting it. Another friend brought up an interesting point that perhaps another reason why the stamp rally may have underperformed was because the theme of the rally was too general, which I can definitely see being a case. If you're a fan of indie games, you're probably going to be more passionate about specific ones, so you would have rather participate in a rally for a specific indie game rather than a mix that may have only had 1 or 2 that you liked and or knew of. That being said, I probably won't host or participate in any stamp rallies for Ai-kon again, and if I do, the scope of it is going to be much smaller. I don't want to end this video on a low note, so let me talk about some fun things that happened during the con. I absolutely loved how many Deltarune cosplayers there were, quite a few Tenas, and even a Lenino and Elnina. There was a Susie cosplayer who was a volunteer for the con, who came by my table a few times and literally offered me some chalk candy. Also, something kind of cool may have happened, though I don't have explicit proof that this was the case, but just the timing of everything has me a little suspicious. Basically, some attendees visiting my table let me know that an artist in the Artist Alley is good friends with Adrian, or Insert Disc 5, who is the creator of the indie game In Stars and Time, which you should totally watch my highlights video for because that game made me bawl my eyes out. And sometime during that weekend, Insert Disc 5 had made a tweet that a friend gifted them some ISAT fan merch that they saw at a con they were at, so I'm like, huh. I'm sure I wasn't the only one who was selling ISAT stuff, but If the creator has my iStat fan merch, I kind of wish I was the one to give them my fan merch personally, but that's okay because it'd be really cool either way if that was the case. I think I'm gonna end things there for this vlog. Thank you to everyone who came by for my very first Ai-kon. Hopefully I can go again next year. Next up is Otakuthon, which is gonna be very interesting because of the comparison from last year with this year, and might honestly be the deciding factor whether I want a table there again at all in the future. But I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Hope to see you guys there. Bye!